Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I want to talk about the fact that Marc Stein of the Stein Line is reporting that playoff teams are calling the 76ers about Guerschon Yabusele and Eric Gordon, who Eric Gordon so far in January is shooting over 50% from three. But they've made it clear that they love Guerschon Yabusele and they also very much like Eric Gordon. The reason why these playoff teams are reaching out is due to the fact that both of those players are on veteran minimum contracts, which allows any team that has luxury tax that they would like to avoid and hopefully dump a player to be interested in inquiring about the availability of either of those players. As the 76ers, best case scenario, are probably going to be a team that walks into the play-in and has to fight it out. But let's talk about some potential fits and why it might be a good idea, because they could get some draft capital by taking on a, a player that's on an expiring contract who maybe is worth $4 or $5 million, and Gershon's making about 2 million and Eric's making three. But the thing is that it's been clear that they really like Guerschon Yabusele, and Guerschon Yabusele is somebody that like a lot of teams have an interest in because he fits the modern archetype you want from a role-playing combo forward. Now, if we just look at the current standings, let's go through the Guerschon Yabusele trades, because I think Guerschon Yabusele, he's a guy who's averaging 10 points a night, 5.5 rebounds, 2 assists, just under a steal a game and half a block, while playing 26 minutes a night, shooting 49% from the field. And I think Yabusele's versatility and defensive abilities would really fit well with a team like Miami, like New York, or Dallas, as those are all teams that really could benefit from getting a multi-positional defender like Guerschon Yabusele. As I think the Miami Heat, if they don't, if they're looking for a move before or after the Jimmy Butler trade, whenever it does happen, Josh Richardson's only played like 8 games, and it's due to this like persistent heel injury, and it seems like he's going to be out for the year. So if they were trying to just move off of him, and the Sixers were like, okay, if you give us draft capital and Josh Richardson, who we buy out, we'll give you Guerschon Yabusele. That could be something that works. And the same thought process goes for the Mavericks and Dante Exum. Or the reason why I think that he would be interested in a guy like Mr. Yabusele is because they don't currently rank 40, like they not currently rank, but they rank in the middle of the league in terms of opponent field goal percentage with 45.8% as a team. They just don't have any point of it, like a true point of attack or enough point of attack perimeter defenders. And Yabusele would improve the defensive rebound, as Miami's actually the fifth worst defensive rebounding team in the league. Now, the other one I was thinking of would be like a Precious Achiuwa, and if Mitchell Robinson does come back, Precious Achiuwa is averaging like 7 and 7 and a block a game right now in 21 minutes a night. He's a guy who could play both the forward position or the center position as a switch big. He'd enhance their interior defense, be a young guy that they could maybe look into as his rebounding or rim protection. This is a team that actually ranks 18th in team rebounds to the Sixers. So, yeah, he's a guy who could be a good replacement for Yabusele. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Dante Exum is similar to Josh Richardson, but Josh Richardson's actually played a couple of games. Dante Exum actually has not been able to play any games. And Yabusele, who is almost 6 rebounds a game and solid field goal percentage, would fit in the Mavericks' defensive scheme as a switch-heavy team that relies on point of attack defenders who are willing to hustle and be able to switch to mitigate the struggles that they have whenever, because they have two drop bigs, but like I think not having Dante Exum on the perimeter, they haven't been able to be as good because Dante Exum being injured. And if he were traded, they would just add future draft picks to kind of sweeten the deal. And that one's how it just makes the most sense for me if like Yabusele was to be traded. Now let's move over to Eric Gordon, who I think Eric Gordon would be the one that would be more likely just because he's older, and the Sixers be less incentivized to keep him, as I think Yabusele has, still being, under 30, is a guy who still has long-term potential for the Sixers. So Eric Gordon, obviously, he's not the defender or the scorer that he once was, but he still can get hot and he can still help out a second unit. So going back to that Josh Richardson trade, where he'd just be Josh Richardson draft capital sent there, which would give him a buyout option and just draft picks, I think could be a good one because Gordon, who is shooting over 50% in the last 14 games in January, is averaging 7 points, 1.5 assists in 19 minutes while shooting 36.5% from three, 42% from the field. And I really do think he's a guy that, if you look at what he's been able to do in terms of like being a scorer off the bench in limited minutes, I think a team like the Miami Heat, who are 18th from as a team in their 3-point ranking, shooting right now about 35.7% from three, which makes him the 12th worst 3-point team in the league. So his veteran presence and his ability to hit timely shots would provide immediate offense off the bench. While another one is the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic haven't been able to really have a consistent rotation due to all the injuries that they've had. And they have Caleb Houstan, who they could probably package Caleb Houstan in a draft pick or something, like second round picks, of course, who would give them a guy in terms of Eric Gordon who would help out the Orlando Magic. Well, Caleb Houstan could maybe be a reclamation project or just a guy who's 6'9" with size and the ability to guard both forward positions and to put the ball on the deck. So I think he's someone's interesting as 6'8". He can play the wing or the forward position, and providing that he could be a developmental piece with defensive potential, I think he's definitely interesting. And then Eric Gordon, of course, would just give the Orlando Magic another vet alongside Corey Joseph who can shoot. And now the final one is, of course, the Denver Nuggets. Vlatko Čančar has been out with the knee injury for what seems like 2 years. I know he came back and it just seems like it's messed up. So to me, it just seems like the most likely thing for them would be to get somebody like Eric Gordon. I think the Denver Nuggets, since Reggie Jackson left, they haven't had like a consistent backup point guard. And Denver ranks top 3 in offensive rating. And having a guy like Eric Gordon who would come off the bench and provide them another option, especially in the playoffs where they're going to have like super reliant bench stretches, I think is going to be huge. Because they really, it's not like they're bad, but like obviously Vlatko Čančar, him being injured, would allow the Sixers to have a buyout option. But the Nuggets just need an actual guard to come off the bench, especially when, like, let's say Jamal Murray's hurt or if he's not having a good game. They just need someone who can be an option. And I think Eric Gordon, besides Vasilij Micic, could be the other best realistic option to get. Now, I think all these trades leverage Guerschon Yabusele and Eric Gordon to address certain team needs that are playoff teams. So obviously those might not be the exact ones, but I just try to think of playoff contender type teams, like Marc Stein said, that would definitely be interested or willing to give up second round picks and have expiring contracts, or somebody that would be, definitely on the move. So I think that's what we just did there. Let me know your thoughts.